Paper Mario 64, The 1000-Year Door, Super Paper Mario, Sticker Star, Color Splash, The Origami King. Can I 100% all 6 of these games in just 1 week? Let's find out. Oh, and this video is brought to you by Squarespace, but more on that later. Okay, so before we begin as usual, I need to clarify a couple things. 1, I'm not including the 1000-Year Door remake that came out on the Switch, as that would make this challenge completely impossible. And 2, I've changed how the timer system works. In the previous 8 challenges, I would take a timer, set it to 1 or 2 weeks, and let it play. This timer ran in real time without stopping, meaning that I was losing quality sleep and no time to make food and exercise. Because I made these videos so frequently, I gained 30 pounds the past couple of years, and I'm only just getting back to a healthier weight. Because of that, I'm changing one rule to the timer. I can pause it when I'm not playing. Not only is this slightly more fair, but this one simple change will allow me to not destroy my well-being. Now, you might be thinking, oh boy, he's making these too easy now, hoo hoo hoo. Well, let's do some math. There's 168 hours in 1 week, and I have 6 games to 100%. That means I have 28 hours bare minimum to complete 6 RPGs. Have you ever tried to 100% an RPG? Yeah, there is nothing easy about this challenge. Look at these average times on howlongtobeat.com. 33.5 hours for Paper Mario 64, 54.5 hours for 1000-Year Door, over 50 hours for Super Paper Mario. The only reason I might be able to do this is because of guides and some help from a Reddit user, TheRyts. A few years ago, they made a checklist for 100%ing all the Paper Mario games, and she was kind enough to restructure her spreadsheet to make it a bit easier for me to keep track of my progress. So a huge thank you to her for helping us. So with that said, let's frickin' get started! To 100% Paper Mario, I need to collect all 80 badges, 160 star pieces, 7 Star Spirit cards, 4 permanent key items, 4 boot and hammer upgrades, complete all 50 recipes, 64 Quizmo quizzes, use all 16 super blocks, and fully upgrade all partners. It's not required to tattle every enemy, as it does not add to the save file, but I still ended up tattling most of them. Now, trying to quickly 100% an RPG is a very weird experience, mostly because I have to master the text as fast as possible to save time, but there's a downside to that. Because I'm not able to read the text at blistering speeds, I got lost sometimes and I'm not that familiar with these games. I haven't played Paper Mario since 2018 for one video, so I remember basically nothing. That is the real challenge, ensuring that I don't forget collectibles along the way. Thankfully, because of the guides, I'll be able to keep track as I'm going along, and it shouldn't really halt my progress that much. It's an RPG, so while a cutscene is playing or I'm mashing through text, I can peek at my guide without stopping everything. Is this what they call min-maxing? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. As I was going along, you'll notice that I'm using my little spin dash as often as possible. This little boost might not seem like it's doing much, but considering I'll be playing for several hours, it'll end up saving me tons of time by the end. And next thing I knew, I collected my first star piece out of 160. While there's an excessive amount in here, even for an RPG, I really like finding and collecting these as they have an actual purpose. Later on in the game, you'll run into this wizard dude Merlo, and he sells badges in exchange for star pieces. Most of these are found in the overworld, but some of them are pretty well hidden or cost a lot to buy. I also grabbed my first badge, and these are going to be super helpful down the line. I'll be mostly prioritizing leveling up my BP so I can utilize as many badges as possible. Something else I'll be working on while playing is Chuckmo's quizzes. Chuckmo is this groovy worm guy, and we have to answer 64 of his quizzes in a row correctly. While the questions aren't a problem, seeing as I have all the answers in front of me, the real issue is actually doing the quizzes. Chuckmo randomly spawns in a select amount of locations, and it's completely random where he'll show up. Because of this, it doesn't really make sense to try to grind out all the quizzes because 1, I don't have all the areas unlocked at this point, but 2, it'll take forever to do that. So basically, the fastest way to go about this is to simply talk to Chuckmo whenever he decides to show up while walking around, and just hope that he spawns a lot. Something I found kind of interesting is just how similar Paper Mario 64 and the 1000-Year Door really are when it comes down to the beginning. You start in Goomba road, a grassy area, and that leads you to Koopa Bros Fortress. Thousand Year Door starts us at Petal Meadows, and you end up at Hooktail Castle. I just find it interesting that both games have the same structure. It seems like it's kind of meant to reference a typical Mario game where you start in a grassy area, and the first big obstacle is one of Bowser's castles. Now, since I'm not that familiar with Paper Mario, or what strats are best against mini-bosses, it actually took me 3 hours to finish Chapter 1. That sounds insanely long, but keep in mind that I'm constantly stopping to collect star pieces and badges, and I died a couple times trying to tattle the Koopa Bros and being underleveled. It was at this point that I realized how long I was going to be spending playing Paper Mario. I was really in it for the long haul. This 100% marathon in particular is absurd considering I'm playing this mostly on the fly. But that's fine, I'm feeling really optimistic. Since I can pause time when I'm not playing, it'll be much easier to take proper breaks and more methodically plan out moves before diving in. And hey, we still get these neat little Peach sections after each chapter. I always forget these exist in Paper Mario 64, just because they were so much more impactful and memorable in the Thousand Year Door. Moving on to Chapter 2, there really isn't much to say here outside of the confusing desert. Thankfully, there's maps online to make it easier to navigate, but I did want to point out something kind of funny. In order to get a free Ultra Shroom, you have to hit this block 100 times. Who in their right mind would ever figure this out on their own? Like honestly, especially back in the day, who's gonna play this and be so bored that they decide to hit this block 100 times and randomly figure this out? And what's crazier is that there's a very limited amount of Ultra Shrooms in this game, and you need them for recipes, but we'll get to that problem later. Now, of course, there might be a hint from some NPC that says to hit that block 100 times, it's possible, but I'm not able to read most of this text, so this hiding spot is very silly to me. Also, can we talk about one of the badges in Dry Ruins? In this room, you gotta sneak your way onto this narrow ledge and walk all the way to the other side and go through the wall. Like, yeah, you know, the badge icon? Honestly, it describes how I feel about this spot. I honestly kind of love that Paper Mario throws in cryptic stuff like this sometimes, but on a casual level, I can't imagine anyone finding this on their own. This was also when I started to accumulate some cash and buy badges from Roth's shop. They're expensive, but they've got a bunch of exclusive badges that can only be purchased there, so I don't have much of a choice but to pay up. Chapter 3 is another maze, but this time we're going through a super spooky forest. Ooh, scary. This area also has maps online to make it easier, which was genuinely helpful considering there were badges that I needed to get here. I also completely forgot that jumping into this pot makes you a so retro Mario, and I guess that was kind of neat. We also get Bo in this chapter, who's always been my favorite sassy ghost partner. Look at those smug-ass claps. Bo means business. Once Chapter 3 was done, I did a bit of backtracking to start finding letters. What are these for, you ask? Star pieces. Pretty much every side quest and thing you do in this game leads to a star piece. I also started to work on Chuckmo's quizzes a bit more, and guess what? You get a star piece for answering a question right too. I decided to grind for Chuckmo for a little bit, and the strategy here was to keep switching between Koopa and Goomba Village using these pipes. At first, it seemed like I was getting a Chuck spawn every minute or so, but as time went on, he started to spawn less and less often. That's when I learned that all the quizzes aren't unlocked right away. I'll have to play up to the last chapter before I can get them all. And this is something I haven't even mentioned yet, but the only way to 100% Paper Mario 64 is to complete all the side quests and collectibles before the final boss. It is impossible to go back and do post-game, so that's why I'm doing some of this stuff right now. While I was working on this, I was fighting some Dark Koopas and lost because I'm not strong enough, but of course, I hadn't saved in a while and lost a ton of progress grinding out the quiz questions. Well, lesson learned is to hit that save block way more often than you think. Even when I got to the Origami King, I was still hitting the save block more than I needed to. This kind of scarred me for the rest of the marathon. But sooner or later, I moved on to Chapter 4. Of course, I had to take on the anti-guy for shits and giggles, and it went about as well as you'd expect. While I love the aesthetic and theme, this is basically the backtracking chapter. I was constantly going in and out to return items from the toy box to some of the NPCs, but at least I got the jackpot on my first try. Yeah, I know you were all desperately seething for that information, so there you go. I did it! After getting some stone caps, I was finally able to take out the anti-guy. This works because you don't take damage with the cap enabled, and he was an absolute breeze. While getting to Chapter 5, I forgot how this whale has the most janky and charming eyes of all time. They look so silly just sticking out like that. Speaking of silly, look at the name of this thing, Hurt Plant. Yeah, honestly, the greatest named Mario enemy of all time. I mean, just look at it. Oh, how did you get up there? No, like seriously, how does a fish get stuck on top of a tree? I love Chapter 5. It's so weird and the village is a bunch of Yoshis, it's top tier content. I also made sure to add the ice badge once getting into Mount Lava Lava. It not only lets me step on fire enemies, but it does extra damage and I was just creaming through. When fighting Lava Piranha, I got to the first point of having actual lag. I'm not sure why the game lags in this one spot, but it was a lot more noticeable than I expected. I've never actually beaten this game on the real console, so maybe that game has the same laggy spots, but I'm playing this on Switch Online and was surprised to see lag to begin with. But anyway, I went back to those underground pipes, I kicked the Dark Koopa's ass after they were wiping me around earlier, and that felt pretty nice. And I was finally talking to Rip Cheeto as well, and realized that I was gonna need 640 coins to get all the star pieces from him. Bro, 640! This game is not generous with coins. That is gonna take a ridiculous amount of time. So I decided to just save up and get his star pieces later. Before starting the next chapter, I figured I might as well take out Kent C. Koopa. He's an optional mini-boss and wasn't really that hard. As long as you put him to sleep, he can be taken out without much thought. Chapter 6 is another creative area, as it takes place in the sky with a bunch of gardens and flower-like enemies. But this is another backtracky chapter. There's so many characters that want certain things, and you have to walk all over the levels and run their errands. Now, obviously, RPGs have always been like this, and I don't think there's anything wrong with backtracking occasionally. It just felt very excessive in Chapter 6, and it got to the point where I was talking to the chat about reverse aging. I have no idea how this got brought up, but like, come on. We've kind of figured out how to do this with rats. Wouldn't it be awesome if humans could do that too? Imagine if our telomeres didn't slowly deteriorate at 27 years old, because biologically we only exist to reproduce and have no reason to live that long. And look, I'm not worried about death because it'll happen to all of us anyway from something one way or another, but it would be awesome to be 100 years old but still look and feel like we're 25, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I evaporated Huff and Puff and put some items into a chest with Peach. Little did I know how important this was gonna be. It was time to start Chapter 7, and oh my goodness, look at these little guys. Goldbits have the same happy/derpy energy of a Quagsire. I think I found one of my new favorite Mario RPG enemies. Let's put him in Mario Kart World. It. Not much interesting happened in this one, except that I wrapped up all the super blocks and overworld star pieces. Now that this chapter is done, it was time to finish up the side quest stuff. First things first, I wanted to finish those damn quizzes, considering I still had over 40 to do. So I went back to grinding Goomba and Koopa Village, but also threw in Dry Outpost. The reason being is that Chuckmo was not spawning as often as I wanted, so I figured that adding an additional location might increase my odds somehow. It could just be a placebo effect, but it seemed to help to some extent. Because man, it takes forever to do this. I mean, did we really need to solve 64 quizzes specifically? I get it, Nintendo 64, it's in the name, ha ha ha, but this isn't that fun to do. It's the first grindy thing I've done in this marathon, and it was starting to feel a bit sloggy. In between grinding these out, I was also working on the remaining side quests. There's this big chain of letters where you pass a letter around to a bunch of NPCs and end up with a Lucky Day badge at the end. I also had to do 20 favors for Koopa. Many of them were quick, but others took some time to finish. This kind of stuff was really fun to do, but I was really trying to finish quickly as I was fast approaching my 28-hour limit. I was around the 22-hour mark, but Koopa was actually the perfect thing to do right now. Since I had to constantly switch between different villages, I could also pair these favors with Chuckmo's quizzes, which I think ended up being a slightly faster strategy. In fact, I finished all the quizzes while working on the favors, which is great because that took an eternity. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted to figure out how much money I still needed to buy the rest of the Rip Cheeto star pieces and badges, and it turns out that I still needed 1,333 coins. That is a lot, so I decided to finally start the recipes. The reason I wanted to do this first was so that I could sell the recipes for cash instead of grinding for coins later. While a lot of ingredients come from shops, oftentimes the recipes will be worth a bit more and give me a net profit. And now that we're here, let's talk about all of this cooking. The idea is pretty simple. You go to Tasty, give her 1 or 2 ingredients, and she'll make a recipe for you. That's where the simplicity ends, because we need to make 50 unique recipes. Some of these will be easy to make. Just buy an item at one of the shops and give it to her. Others, on the other hand, will take much longer to make. A lot of these ingredients can only be found in very specific places, which means I will have to do a lot of backtracking to collect collect these ingredients. Not only that, but my item bag isn't very big, so I can only hold so many items at once. This means that I was really only allowed to get ingredients for like 3 to 5 recipes at a time, or else I'd run out of space. As an example, I need 15 cake mixes to complete all the recipes, and they can only be found in Shy Guy's toy box. Since my inventory is so small, I could only focus on like 1 to 2 cake mix recipes at a time, so I had to go back several times to get this one ingredient. And you might be asking, hey Nathaniel Bandy, you do know you can store items at the shops, right? Look, I love the idea of recipes in an RPG game like this, but I hate that it's required to make all of them to get 100%. And I still had to do a bit of coin grinding, but it wasn't that much. The best strategy that I found was just fighting these pokies over and over. They tended to drop a bunch of coins. But I haven't even talked about the worst part of the recipes yet. To make every recipe, you need 3 Ultra Shrooms and 4 Jam and Jelly. Guess who didn't know that ahead of time? That's right, my stupid ass used some of these insanely rare items in battle and didn't save them for the recipes. I just assumed you could buy these items somewhere, but nope! There are only 5 Ultra Shrooms in the overworld. Because I didn't have enough Ultra Shrooms or Jam and Jellies, I was kind of panicking on what to do. At first, I resorted to playing the little oink game. The idea here is you insert 10 coins to make an egg, and it'll hatch into a little pig dude. The color of the pig will determine what item you get from him, and this is the only way to get extra Ultra Shrooms and Jam and Jelly. The silver pig gives you a Jam and Jelly, while the gold an Ultra Shroom. The only issue with that is the odds of this happening are pretty damn small. There's an 8.91% chance of getting the silver pig and a 2.97% chance of getting the gold pig. You can also get Jam and Jellies as a rare drop for killing an Amazy Daisy, but both of these options sucked. The timer was ticking, and I needed to come up with a solution fast. I still needed 1 more Ultra Shroom and 4 more Jam and Jellies. Thankfully, there were 2 Jam and Jellies out in the wild that I never collected, so I got those to start. There was another Jelly and Ultra Shroom at Bowser's Castle, which technically I could still get. The only thing that sucks about this is I'll have to backtrack all the way back to the beginning, and these 2 ingredients are practically at the end of Bowser's Castle. But it's a decent solution for what it's worth, which just means I need 1 more Jam and Jelly. Oh, yes! Yes! Oh my god, thank you! Oh, thank God. Would you look at that? I told you that Peach's chest was gonna come in clutch. Thank God we didn't have to waste time slaughtering hundreds of pigs for a jar of jelly. After 3 to 4 hours, I was finally done with all the recipes, which could have been a lot shorter had I not wasted those rare items earlier. However, I still needed money for a few more badges, and had only one option: become a dirty reseller. I bought a bunch of Volt Shrooms for 10 coins, turned them into Hot Shrooms, and sold them for 15 coins for a sweet $5 profit. It was like I was a rising phoenix from the ashes. I got enough coins for the rest of the badges and was ready to fight Bowser. Oh, spoilers by the way, Bowser's the final boss. Sorry, I know I ruined the surprise for all of you. Something I've always loved about this game is that for once, Mario cannot defeat Bowser on his own. Even at the end of the game, he is simply not strong enough to overcome him, and it's required that Peach helps by destroying Bowser's shield. It's a refreshing way to go about a boss fight from such a long-running series. It reminds me of when Zelda helps out Toon Link in the Wind Waker or Spirit Tracks. Getting that little extra help to push through feels all the better. But next thing I knew, the game was finally done. It took me 27 hours and 38 minutes to finish Paper Mario 64. So, a little slower than I was hoping, as I currently have 22 minutes of wiggle room to work with. Yippee! But let's just see how the rest of this marathon goes, because we're just getting started. It's peak, it's based, it's earned the Chad status. To 100% the 1,000-year door, I need to collect all 85 badges, 39 shine sprites, 100 star pieces, complete all 126 tattles, 30 trouble centers, 57 recipes, fully upgrade all partners, and complete the pit of 100 trials. So actually, the goals are fairly similar compared to Paper Mario 64, except that we actually have to do the tattles now. Before starting, I could have technically chosen to play the remake instead of the original, but I didn't for 2 main reasons. reasons. One, the remake has a little extra content in it, but two, you can actually scrub through the text way faster in the original. Look, I adore the TTYD remake, but I would have been in pain watching the text scroll slowly for the entire game. While we don't have that new fast travel room, I'm guessing that the original Thousand Year Door will still be slightly faster, despite the fact that the trouble centers will definitely take longer to finish. The frame rate is faster too, although the overall pacing is pretty similar between both games. Right away, I knew going in that I was going to need a lot of coins to 100% this game. I still had to buy expensive badges, so I need around 2,000 coins total to achieve that. Now, I have to say that in almost every way, the Thousand Year Door is superior to the N64 original. But with that said, I was kind of missing the spin jump. Yes, you can move faster with Yoshi later on, but it's just not going to be as efficient or feel as good as spin jumping on the fly. But dude, running around at 60 FPS, felt fantastic. I know the frame rate doesn't matter in an RPG, but games just feel better when they're running at higher frames. The only downside is hitting the bingo is a bit harder now. I was able to nail it every time in the remake, while it took some practice to do in this version. However, I had a pretty crazy beginning. My health was super low going into Hooktail Castle, and I got into a battle with some dull bones at 1 health. I had no healing items and needed to finish this battle. Oh my god. I'm gonna try to super guard this. Yes! Oh my god! I gotta super guard the rest of these. Yes! No! What are you doing? Don't do that! No! Gaming! Yes! Oh. Woo! Yes! We're still going! Yes! Oh my god! I hit 10 super guards in a row before figuring out how to use the fire flower. Well then, after beating Hooktail and taking a quick shower with Peach, we were done with Chapter 1. Since I 100% the remake a year ago, this was the one game I felt somewhat confident in being able to play quickly. Before moving on, I took all my coins and gave them to the sketchy rat Lumpy. The reason being is that later in the game, he's gonna invest my money and give me a big return. If you give Lumpy 300 coins, he'll give you 999 coins a few chapters later. I didn't have that much money, but I did give him 100, and that would give me 300 back in return. So this would definitely help with paying for badges at the end. Going into Chapter 2, it's crazy how good this game still looks. The colors in this strange enchanted forest are still so vibrant and look gorgeous. My plan here was to take out every enemy so that I could peacefully do the backtracking in this chapter. However, enemies would respawn in areas where I already took them out, and that's when I learned that this only works in the Japanese version of the game. Alright, well now I fully understand why speedrunners pick the Japanese version over the English. But otherwise, it was pretty quick and easy, and I made it to Chapter 3. Man, I know people love this chapter and say it's their favorite because they get to pick the color of Yoshi they want, but I have mixed thoughts. The concept of going through a bunch of fights that slowly get harder and harder is rewarding to a degree as you feel like you're evolving your skills in combat. But dude, there are so many battles. It really slows the game's pacing down a lot. It does get more interesting near the end where the fights are broken up with running around in the vents of the building, but this is a pretty sloggy chapter for me. Oh, and by the way, I did have the chat vote for the Yoshi name, and they all voted on these nuts. Yeah, I don't know, man. I was really pulling for Uwu, but I give the people what they want. Nothing too crazy happened here, though. I had a couple of unlucky deaths, including one where I got a poison mushroom bingo without looking, so it took me about 3 hours to 100% the entire thing. What made it take so long is that there were so many new enemies to tattle. It just halted progress constantly having to use Goombella to grab a tattle. Now that I had all these coins, I wanted to go back to Lumpy and give him an extra 200 to invest, but little did I know that he already left, and I missed out on giving him more money. I knew he was only around for the first few chapters, but I thought he would still be here before starting Chapter 4. So while that's a bit disappointing, I'll still get a 200 coin bonus, so there's that at least. This fourth chapter flew by, thankfully. Nothing really slowed us down the entire way through. Chapter 5 was more or less the same, although I noticed a pretty big difference in the grotto. Getting this shine sprite is impossible to see, while in the remake, it's impossible not to see. I'm really glad they made that change, because this is another super cryptic spot to hide a collectible. Moving to Chapter 6, the first half of it kinda sucks. There is so much backtracking between the train stations and rooms, and it's boring because the area is so small and uninteresting to look at. The whole murder mystery is an awesome concept and all, but it just felt like it went on for too long. I also had the most insane IRL luck with my foot. I recently got this new computer chair that has a footrest, and it's pretty comfy, and obviously I was using it while playing. By some miracle, my foot managed to slip slightly forward and hit this teeny tiny button on my desktop, which just so happened to be the power button. Somehow, I was able to cancel shutting down my PC, but it completely botched my stream and my local recording, which was pretty annoying. Ever since then, I have moved my PC to the side so I cannot possibly hit that tiny button again in the same manner. Because seriously, what were the odds of that happening? But oh well, Lumpy's returned, and I'm finally cashing out after my crazy investment. Thank you, random green rat man. I started buying some badges from the shop with the extra cash and began Chapter 7, which is once again a big backtracking fetch quest of trying to find General White, and this is when I realized that not every place has a fast travel pipe. In Rogueport sewers, there's a few fast travel pipes to get around more quickly, but not for getting to Glitz Pit. You have to go all the way to Rogueport and take the blimp every single time to get there. What kind of sense does that make? Why do some places have fast travel pipes and others don't? Maybe they just figured it didn't take that long to get there anyway, but considering how often we'll be going back to Glitz Pit, it was a huge time sinker. Once getting to Chapter 8, I died on Gloomtail a few times just because I didn't have a lot of HP. I was really bulking up the BP since I knew that would be super helpful for the late game, so after getting a star bingo, I was able to clutch him out with some help from good old Supernova. What I was a bit worried about was Shadow Queen Peach. Dying to her wouldn't be the end of the world, but there are so many cutscenes that play out before you fight her, so I did not want to waste a bunch of time watching those again if I could prevent it. The only issue was that since I was spending all my money on badges, I had barely any items to rely on. I was going to need to hit a couple bingos if things got dire. The main idea here is to get rid of Shadow Queen's hands as fast as possible, or your HP will drain extremely quickly. I got her down to 25 HP, which was close, but I also only had 13 HP. This low amount was dangerous considering how strong her attacks are, and I had no healing items or star power left. I hit her with a power jump, got attacked again, and was down to 6 HP. 15 HP to go on Peach, and on top of that, her hands had just respawned. I ended up using one of the rare Jammin' Jellies, but things were not looking good. It looked like I was going to be forced to super guard, but I had no idea what the timing was. Oh my god. She didn't attack! I was blessed with the greatest luck! Oh my god, how did I survive that? Maybe her turn was just supposed to be spotting the hands, but I'm almost certain that she attacks regardless of her doing that or not. So with the incredible main game out of the way, now it's time for the Trouble Centers. Yay! Okay, actually, I do kind of like the side quest. I just hate that you can only work on one at a time, and there's a crazy amount of backtracking too. While working on that, I was also getting more badges and got the rest that I needed from Lovely Howe's shop. I wasn't done yet though, as I still needed some from Charlieton, and that dude charges crazy prices for some of them. I also finally got Ms. Mouse, since I never really found her to be that helpful of a partner. I figured that, I'll just get her when I started working on the side quests. But man, wow do these trouble centers take a long time. Especially since I just did these in the remake last year. Replaying them in the original is like trying to swim through sludge. You know how when you're running on a treadmill and you're really tired and your goal is to hit like 40 minutes, but you're only at minute 12 and you get this sense of dread for how much longer there is to go? That is exactly what it felt like to go to these trouble centers. So many of them require you to travel to like 3 or 4 different locations for just one trouble, and you have to go through Rogueport and Rogueport sewers every time in between. I've gone through worse grinds in games before, believe me, but I was definitely feeling this one. I originally thought it'd only take me an hour or two to finish all 30 trouble centers. Oh, my sense of time. How I was so wrong. And I still had to fight Atomic Boo since I hadn't done that yet either. It got to the point where even the loading in between areas was starting to feel long. That's how you know we're doing too much backtracking. In fact, it took me 3 hours to finish these, and I haven't even started the recipes yet. But hey, at least I knocked out the star pieces along the way, and the shine sprites have been done for quite a while too. Once all the troubles were centered, I decided to head into the piano parlor and grind out the airplane minigame for piano coins. I needed to get 2 exclusive badges here, Refund and the Money badge. The process behind earning money through the other minigames or the slot machine were either harder or just more time consuming, so I basically had to play this one dozens of times in a row. The goal was to make more than 10 piano coins per game because it costs 10 coins to play it once. This could be achieved by getting the airplane a far distance, but what really made a difference was hitting these X2 multipliers. I could get a nice chunk of coins that way, but of course, the multiplier squares show up at complete random, so I really didn't have a consistent strategy to hit them every time. There wasn't much I could do except hope that I would be near a multiplier before landing. After getting 300 piano coins, I had enough to get the badges, and could finally get started with the recipes. Going into this, I already knew I was going to need a bunch of random obscure ingredients from places far away, so I collected a few of those ahead of time. They were sitting in my inventory, and I figured that I might as well make those first to get them out of the way. Honestly, the process is pretty much the same as it was in Paper Mario 64. You backtrack a million times, get the random ingredient, and do all that just to make 1 or 2 things at a time. And some of these recipes are surprisingly complicated to make. Let's talk about the process of making Zest Dynamite. This requires 2 ingredients, egg bomb and coconut bomb. You can't just buy an egg or coconut bomb out of nowhere, you have to make both of them first. To make an egg bomb, you need the Mystic Egg and Fire Flower. While you can buy a Fire Flower at the store, the Mystic Egg can only be found at the Great Tree. Or you can make a Mystic Egg with a fried egg, that works too. But to make a coconut bomb, you need a coconut and a Fire Flower, and you have to go to Keel Hall Key to get a coconut. And this is just 1 ingredient. Lots of recipes have several steps to make just one thing. As I was going through these, I decided to knock out the Pit of 100 Trials because I was already strong enough for it, and I still needed more money. Using the money badge in the pit, I would be able to cash the out and afford the rest of the badges and items. To prepare, I got a bunch of Whack-a-Bumps. Sorry, Wacka, please forgive me. And I made a bunch of recipes to increase their usefulness. What's great about this method is that it costs literally nothing to get a Whack-a-Bump and Golden Leaf. It just takes a bit of time to collect those items. Now, the Pit of 100 Trials is one of the coolest parts of this game. You have to complete 100 battles without dying, or you start over from the beginning. It's a scary premise, but the adrenaline you get playing through it is really fun, and is much faster paced than the Glitz Pit. There's a lot of unique enemies here, so adding Goombella to the mix of tattling harder and harder enemies made it a tad bit more scary. Thankfully, movers will occasionally show up, allowing you to skip a few floors. This is awesome because it saves time, but I had to be careful not to move up too fast as some enemies had to be tattled still that I couldn't skip. I think I used them maybe twice? But yeah, things were going smoothly, and when I got to floor 50, I got the Strange Sack, which would allow me to hold twice as many items. This is another reason I decided to not do every recipe, because this would cut down my backtracking a very significant amount. I was actually really happy with how things were going. I had multiple Zest Deluxes in my bag just in case, but didn't use any until the end because I was hitting bingos with partners that needed to heal, and strategically swapping partners that needed full health right before leveling up. A lot of the Pit of 100 Trials is just min-maxing your badges, and switching them around based on which enemies you're about to fight. It makes a huge difference. After taking out Bonetail, we were done with the Tattles, and the Trouble Centers since technically one of them requires you to go through the pit. I got the rest of the badges from Charlieton, which wrapped those up too, so it was all up to the recipes. All that was left was expensive stuff, so buying a few Ultra Shrooms and Jam and Jellies. Thankfully, I maxed out my coins in the pit, so by selling these recipes after making them, I was able to just barely get enough money to finish every single recipe. And just like that, I was done with Paper Mario the 1000-Year Door. It took me 28 hours and 3 minutes to 100%, which is a lot longer than I wanted to take. I still technically have a shot at beating this challenge, but I didn't save any time. And now I have to go up against the most time-consuming game. But first, a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. This is the best and most powerful place to create the slickest websites. New to Squarespace is the Fluid Engine, a next-generation design system that makes it even easier to make a website. There's also Squarespace extensions that connect your store to vetted third-party tools to extend functionality, and the analytics page makes it easy to see who's visiting your site and where people are coming from. I've updated my site this year and added a small blogging section, where I'll write a bit about any specific game I've played. This month, I've written about Switch 2 Welcome Tour. So with that, go to squarespace.com/Nathaniel to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The link is in the description. Oh boy, here we go. To 100% this, I need to collect all 256 catch cards, 48 treasure maps, 6 cooking discs, 4 permanent key items, complete all 96 recipes, and find all 13 pixels. We've officially gone past the point of traditional Mario RPGs. Super Paper Mario is, kind of a platformer. Well, it's mostly platforming, but the game sometimes turns into an RPG, or a space shooter, or a dating sim. That's kind of the point of Super Paper Mario. It wants to defy your expectations, and frankly, getting 100% defied my expectations too. One of the first things that I found interesting about this game is Mario's jump. Look at how high he goes. I mean, good lord. He's got to be jumping like, what, 25 or 30 feet? I know he's the jump man, but I have never seen Mario jump this high on his own, unless he's terraformed into a spring or something. Once entering the first level, I start to collect cards as they're basically the replacement for star pieces. What's kind of cool about the catch cards is if you get duplicates of enemy cards, they actually get weaker, and you can sell them for cash too if needed. So honestly, they're kind of an upgrade to the star pieces. Mario can also distort reality and flip from the 2D and 3D dimension on the fly, which is really cool too. It makes for some really clever puzzles, but also really obnoxious ones, which we'll get to later on. But I gotta say, I like this game a lot more than I did the first time I played it. It was refreshing after 50 hours of RPGs, and it's a unique kind of platformer. I did find the Megastar to be kind of funny. I couldn't help but say, so retro, seeing a massive 8-bit Mario crash through the screen. The 2000s really was the era where Nintendo made characters big, wasn't it? Something I always found weird is you have a meter when going into 3D that ticks down. Once you get to 0, you take 1 health point and the meter resets. If the punishment for being in 3D is so minor, why even have the meter to begin with? It's not really a fault of the game per se, I just think it's kind of silly. I do have to say that the game itself is way too easy. This also includes the bosses. You usually just jump on them or throw them, and they don't take that much effort. Just look at this fight against Chunky. This game's stupid. This game's so dumb. I'm not even doing anything. I'm just sitting here pushing 1. And it's like the window's so big! I'm not really sure what they could have done to make them harder. I guess faster patterns or something. The point, however, is that the general gameplay isn't all that challenging, so I really won't have much to say about it. Fractail is a really cool boss though. I also unlocked Peach and we'll get Luigi and Bowser soon. While I love playing as the other characters and being able to swap on the fly, they really don't serve much purpose. Bowser is great for bosses because he's a powerhouse, and Peach is useful for a couple of jumps, but none of them besides Mario can go into 3D, which, you know, is kind of the biggest gimmick of the entire game, so there's not much point to play as the other characters. As I was going through, I was also working on getting the catch cards by purchasing these catch card bags in Flipside. The cards you get here are random, but since I didn't have that many, the odds were pretty high that I'd get new ones every time, and I pretty much did. I also needed to go to this guy Flim for catch cards, but believe me when I say that we haven't scraped the surface. Getting all 256 catch cards is an entire game on its own. Something else I was doing was shaking the remote after stomping on enemies. This gives you a little extra XP and it helps with leveling up faster. But it was also pretty annoying to do, and sometimes I would just forget to shake. But it did make a big difference in leveling up. It's just not that comfortable to do for several hours while holding a Wii Remote sideways. But whatever, I was having a great time, especially once I got to Francis's castle and found out that he owns a Virtual Boy and a GameCube with the Game Boy player underneath it. That's how you know he's a true nerd. Just getting into his room is hilarious. He has a lot of shockingly relatable questions you have to answer. I have bought games that I have never played. How did he know? My first love was an anime character. I love going on message boards and complaining about games I've never played. Hey Reggie, can we get Francis in Mario Kart World 2? Once that was done, I collected the first optional pixel, because yes, there's 4 of them you technically don't need to beat the game. I haven't even talked about the pixels yet, because there isn't much to say. There's like, I don't know, maybe 3 useful ones, and the rest are just kind of They also just don't look like much, so it's hard to remember who's who. I mean, one of these pixels is a literal triangle. It's kind of hard to have an impactful character that's just a basic shape, you know? After getting through Chapter 4 and fighting the illustrious Mr. L, we get a bonus fight with Brobot. No, not the Jimmy Neutron Brobot that jumped to all of our minds first. It's the other one that's a big flying head and shoots lasers. This game is so weird. I love it. I also made my way to Flopside finally, because of course there's a mirrored version of Flipside. Can we also talk about Chapter 5.1 for a second? There's a part at the end where you gotta talk to this guy that says an extremely long string of left, right, middle. Then you go to these blocks and you have to hit them in the exact order that he said. How long is this string, you might ask? This is the combination. Middle, right, left, right, middle, right, middle, right, left, middle, left, right, middle. What the f is this? Super Paper Mario really just does whatever it wants. It has no rules, and you have no choice but to bend to them.
Naughty gamer, haven't you?
And look at this incredible level design where you jump from block to block. Simply exquisite. When Chapter 5 was wrapped up, I made a few recipes with the items I already had and got some more cards. That's when I realized how incredibly mundane the recipes were going to be. In Super Paper Mario, you have to go to 2 different shops to make recipes. Flipside lets you make single ingredients, while Flopside is for double ingredients. The theming behind this idea makes sense, but in practice, this is flat out stupid. Not only do I have to make twice as many recipes this time around, but I have to do even more backtracking to go to 2 different recipe shops. I'm not even in recipe making mode yet, but I could already tell how much of a slog it was gonna be. The reason I'm even making recipes right now is because I'm about to go to the Flipside Pit of 100 Trials. That's right, the pit is back with a vengeance, and I wanted to do this one fairly early on. That's because if you beat Flipside's pit, you get the Dash L pixel at the end, and Dash L will allow me to run much faster and cut down a lot of backtracking time. So even though I'm a little under-leveled, it's still worth the risk of doing. The way the pit works compared to the Thousand-Year Door is vastly different actually. In fact, I kind of liked it more. Most of the room's layouts are randomly generated, and you don't have to take out every enemy. All you need is the pit's key, which is randomly added to one of the enemies. So you might spend 5 seconds finding the key, or a couple of minutes per room. What I really like about this setup is that it's fresh every time you play it, and it actually gets pretty hard by the end. The layouts are usually really narrow, so you have to be very careful about when to attack and what pixels to use. I found myself swapping pixels pretty often, which isn't really necessary in the main game. The scariest part of the pit is that you go back to the beginning if you die, and I was in a room with an Amazy Daisy. What sucks about these enemies is that they run away as soon as they're spotted, and they flip to the other dimension. So it got to the point where I was trying to juke out this Amazy Daisy, and this happened. I think I'm out of time though, that's the problem. Oh my god! Ah! Holy! I need a break. 2 seconds. That was the most batshit insane move I have ever done in a Paper Mario game. Outside of that happening, beating the pit wasn't that bad. So since that hurdle was done, I can run now! Yeah! That actually feels pretty good. It's time for Chapter 6. The one where you fight in Sammer's Kingdom and win with Bowser in 2 seconds 20 times in a row? Wow, what a great chapter. But then you go to Purgatory.
Hello.
Literally die and go to hell, and you escape hell at the end. Like I said, Super Paper Mario is a wild video game. It goes to places you wouldn't expect. Then of course we gotta go through all these clouds. This has always been my least favorite chapter because it's confusing and long to navigate. Chapter 8 was the first time I really started to struggle. I made it to 8-3 and I had almost no health and no healing items. So I kept dying to stupid things over and over again and eventually decided to go back to Flipsville and get some items and heal. I didn't want to do this because I'd be forced to replay all of 8-1 and 8-2 again, but I really didn't have much of a choice. This chapter is also really confusing, but the puzzles are still clever and fun to figure out. Although unfortunately, Count Bleck was really easy. After he was done with, I was finally finished with the main game. But believe me, I had a long journey ahead of me still. First things first, I nabbed the Piccolo Pixel, as he'll be helpful for a couple of things down the line. And then it was time for the recipes. Oh my freaking god! I cannot believe how mind-numbing and tedious it is to make these recipes. This is my third time going through this, but now I gotta do 96, and half of these are double recipes! The process feels the same as the first two Paper Marios, except now it's even worse, having to go back and forth between two different shops. Oh my god, is it time? Yes it is, ladies and gentlemen. I finally get to bitch and whine about the hub worlds themselves. I've been looking forward to this, because Flipside and Flopside are incredibly annoying to navigate. There are multiple floors in each area, and all these floors look exactly the same. This makes it really hard to keep track of where everything is, and on top of that, the item shops sell different items in both areas. But those aren't the only two item shops. There are multiple located in many different places. The previous two Paper Mario games were like this too, but the issue with this game is traveling through Flipside and Flopside. You do get a fast travel pipe to the doors for the levels, okay, sure, and later on, you also unlock this pipe that lets you travel from Flipside to Flopside. This unlockable pipe is on the second floor in both areas, and on opposite sides, of course, to be more confusing. But because of the way Flip and Flopside are designed, it barely helps at all! To go up and down the floors, you have to take very specific elevators. These elevators only go up or down one floor at a time, which means there's two elevators on each floor. Why can't there just be one elevator that can take me to any floor I want? Or better yet, can't this theoretical elevator take me to Flipside and Flopside in one go? Who designs elevators like this? I feel like I'm playing freaking Hotel Mario. The reason this sucks so bad is because everything is mirrored in Flopside. So when I wanted to go down an elevator, it was the opposite direction in that area, and I couldn't remember which way to go half the time because the hub worlds look exactly the same. Oh my god, I loathe Flipside and Flopside now. You know what else they could have done to fix this? Set the blue pipe to our key items like the red pipe. At least then I could warp the Flipside and Flopside a bit quicker. Look, the music is great in the hub worlds, the general vibe is chill, but trying to do these stupid recipes and being forced to use these incredibly slow and unproductive elevators was killing me inside. Thankfully, there was a super easy way to get money, so at least I didn't have to do much grinding for coins. All you do is get an empty SP catch card from Flopside, go to Chapter 5-1, go through a few doors, and catch the Amazy Daisy with a card. Once that's done, you can sell it for 300 coins. Catching a few Amazy Daisies and selling them only takes like 10 minutes, so at least I will never have to worry about money for the rest of this game. I did also finally learn about the shops holding items, so I was able to use that and save a little bit of backtracking time. As for the actual recipes, most of them are what you'd expect, but I was not a fan of the Miracle Dinner. So basically, you have to buy a mystery box and then cook it to get a random recipe. There's only an 8% chance that you'll get the Miracle Dinner, so I went through like 20 mystery boxes before finally getting that one. But hey, at least we made a recipe with fresh pasta and lovely chocolate. This just reminds me of that scene from Elf where he mixes spaghetti with all that candy. But that wasn't the only interesting ingredient. I still had to get 2 daisy tears. How do you get daisy tears? Well, you can't buy them. There's only one other option. I had to go to 3-3, climb up this tree, and once inside, take out the daisies in hopes that a daisy tear will drop. That might sound simple, but let me tell you, I spent 45 minutes before one daisy tear dropped, and the stupid thing dropped to the ground. I didn't see it when falling down trying to grab it, and the damn thing despawned before I could collect it. Ugh, dude, these recipes are brutal in this game. It feels like I'm never gonna leave. At least I got better luck and nabbed the 2 daisy tears shortly after. Right after that, I needed to get some turtley leaves, which only spawn from Koopas, and oh yeah, of course, those spawn immediately. Maybe there's different drop rates for different items. I have no idea, but I would have to guess that's the case. The poison shrooms were also the same idea. I had to destroy a ton of these zombie shrooms and get 4 different drops for recipes. Has anyone ever talked about recipes this much in a Paper Mario game? I feel like I should just sign up for Hell's Kitchen already. I'm f***ing ready to become a 5-star chef with all this cooking that I've been doing. After about 6 to 7 hours, I made the last recipe and all 96 were done. Wow, that was an experience, alright. But we're not done yet. It's time to do the treasure maps, which should be a lot easier. Basically, I just have to buy these maps off Flim, and then revisit all the levels or parts of Flip and Flopside to find hidden treasures. I also wanted to continue buying cards, because I still have a ways to go on that too. I wanted to basically get so many cards that I start getting a lot of duplicates in Flipside, indicating that I'll need to get the rest through other means or the Flopside card shop. The Flopside shop also works differently. You buy the individual cards outright instead of it being random, but only so many show up at a time. The cards cycle through each time you visit the shop, so you basically have to go in and out to get different cards to show up. I also grabbed Tiptron because Frances was holding her hostage, that lizardy freak. I had to pay him 999 coins to get her back. I can't believe we agreed to this deal. But yeah, the treasure maps really weren't that hard. It just took a while to find everything. Sometimes we even got super helpful items like Power Plus or HP Plus, which is pretty sweet. Once those were done, I went back to the card shop and was just hoping to find some new stuff to buy. The only card that might be a struggle for us is the Whack-A card. That's because it's insanely rare and only shows up in the shops. The only other thing I could do to get it is to get 300 shop points, which would require me to grind even more money and just buy a bunch of crap at the shops. This would waste a lot of time, but thankfully, oh my god, the card showed up! But oh no, I don't have enough money for it. Wait, hold on. I'll just sell a bunch of duplicates and there we go. We managed to nab the Whack-A card without wasting a bunch of cash. While I ended up getting almost every card here, there were still a small handful of enemy cards I needed to get, but they didn't show up in the shop no matter how many times I refreshed. So I instead got some the natural way, just finding the enemy and using the catch card on them. This took a little bit of time, but who knows how long I may have spent refreshing the card shop. At this point, all we have left to do is to get the Sammer Kingdom cards and the Flopside Pit cards. Starting off with Sammer's Kingdom, you may recognize this footage from a while ago. In Chapter 6.1, we had to play a handful of these battles, but we got caught off because the universe was being sucked into a black hole or whatever. But now, we can actually attempt all these battles, and if we get to the end, we win a bunch of cards. You might think this is going to be intimidating like the other pits, but Sammer's Kingdom is a total joke. Just play as Bowser, push down on the D-pad, and you'll win 90% of the battles. Sometimes you have to jump and avoid attacks, but you're mostly just killing enemies in one hit and moving on. It was honestly kind of boring having to do 100 battles, but I managed to win and get the cards I needed. So it was finally time to take on the Flopside Pit of 100 trials, because of course we have to do it again. The Flopside Pit is almost identical to the Flipside one, except that all the enemies are a bit tougher, and some of the spawns are different as well. Because I have all the cards for all these dark enemies and I'm pretty well leveled up, this really wasn't that bad. I was still nervous and played it safe, don't get me wrong, but I knew what to expect. After many epic battles and keys, I made it to round 100 again, and I was done. Well, hold on, wait. I've waited for you, heroes, but whether you are the true heroes of legend or not is yet to be seen. I see. I have to do this again? Again? Oh, of course! It, we're doing the Pit of 100 Trials a third time, because this game wasn't long enough! After playing the pits again, Floor 100 has the actual secret boss. You have to fight dark versions of all 4 heroes, and it reminded me of the dark fight from Zelda 2. They're a lot tougher and hit harder, but it didn't really matter. I have Bowser, so they went down without much of a fight. After getting the rest of the cards from the chests, we are finally done with those and have one more thing to do. I just needed to find 6 cooking discs, which are all hidden in Flipside and Flopside. This wasn't that big of a deal to do, although you gotta love how some of these required you to find hidden blocks and jump up like 30 of them without messing up. Great level design, but who cares? We have actually 100% Super Paper Mario. It took me 33 hours and 39 minutes to do, which is about as long as I expected. And to celebrate, someone in chat was asking me to show off Peach with a ponytail, so I finally did that. And I have to admit, that's pretty adorable. While I'm relieved to be done, my next game is not going to be as enjoyable. Oh no. To 100% this, I need to collect all 96 stickers, 64 things, 5 Wiggler pages, 16 HP up parts, spot all 5 hidden Luigis, find all 35 hidden doors, and complete all 8 flags. Dude, I can't believe I'm actually playing this game again. I played it for a video several years ago, swearing to myself that I'd never come back to it, but here we are. Paper Mario Sticker Star. I mean, what more do I need to say? The combat sucks, the story sucks, the pacing sucks. There are very few redeeming qualities to Sticker Star. This is also when I stopped streaming these, because I needed to have as little distractions as possible to have any sort of shot at completing this marathon. I apologize to the chat, but I had to cook. Because right away, I learned that there's no way to skip through text fast. I even checked the menus for any sort of speed up option. But, you know, this is a Nintendo game, they don't want you customizing anything. So that's pretty annoying on its own, and it'll make the game feel even longer. Right away, I need to start going for perfect bonuses in battle and nailing excellent attacks. Interestingly, the timing is way different compared to the earlier titles. You have to push A surprisingly early. I've already listed off the requirements for getting 100%, but some of the flags have absurd goals. On top of getting all the comet pieces, secret doors, collecting every sticker type and HP up part, I also have to spend 10,000 coins, get a perfect bonus for 500 battles, perform 1,000 excellent attacks, and hit the battle spinner jackpot 50 times. You might think that I'll just naturally get the 1,000 attacks or 500 battles. Yeah, that's not how this works. In fact, we actually want to avoid battles as we're playing, because it just wastes time. There's no leveling up in this game, and the overworld showers you with free stickers and coins, so there's literally no point to battle. It actually makes more sense to avoid the battles now, and do them later with a more efficient method. And the battling isn't fun anyway, you just pick a sticker and use it. I mean, sure, there's a variety of stickers to use, but there's very little variance in the actual combat. It's just boring. And I haven't even brought up the things. Yes, that's the actual term. Things are just like, you know, random household objects or everyday items you might find at a store or something. These are also used in battle, but are mostly delegated to the bosses. And the game never tells you or really hints at what things are effective against bosses. I'm not even going to go over what happens in the story, because there really isn't much plot here at all. Bowser's bad, Kirsty the Crown Companion is an annoying shithead, and all the NPCs are toads. No partners, no unique enemies, no fun allowed. And I had to constantly replay levels to recollect the things, just because I needed it for some boss down the line. Although the Shady Toad does show up later and you can buy the things from him, so I guess there's that. Along the way, I had to make sure to find all the Luigi sightings, and I needed to get all the Wiggler pages by taking the Wiggler bodies to random levels. These are the 2 parts of getting 100% that cannot be missed, especially the Wiggler pages, since it's impossible to get them once all the Wiggler bodies reunite. I also had to buy a ton of secret doors, and you need to find the outline in each level. Most of the time, finding these doors is kind of fun. It really makes you look at your surroundings closely, but then some of the door outlines are near impossible to see. Thankfully, the HP up parts weren't that hard to find. Sometimes they would be in cryptic hiding spots, but usually you could find them by just exploring the levels. Although I do have to call bullshit on World 310, it's this level where you gotta play the Sniff It or Whiff It game. It's pretty boring, but whatever. You go there, you get the comet piece, your secret door, yada yada yada. However, the HP up part only spawns after beating the level. What the hell is the point of that? Just let me pick up the heart the first time I get there. It's like this for a couple other HP up parts too, but this one feels painful because the Sniff It game is so boring to do. Since it took a while to unlock the secret doors, I backtracked to all the levels that needed them still, and I was actually enjoying it? Yeah, I was having a lot more fun just adding doors to the levels instead of actively playing the game as intended. These were going to be important for the new Zam, but we'll get to that later on. The only part in this game that made me laugh is when Mario walks into a mansion and steals a whole ass fridge and oven. Like, it's just his now. You can't stop him. I do also like how absurdly broken the Infinity Jump is. Literally, just time your jumps right and you'll win any battle you want. And you know what? There is one good thing about Sticker Star. This is one heck of a short game. In fact, I was making really good time and was on pace to beat it with several hours of time save left. The goal was to 100% it in like 20 to 21 hours, and I was somehow on track to do that. Once I defeated Bowser Jr., it was time to begin the sticker museum and coin grinding. For the museum, the idea is to take every single sticker and thing in the entire game and put it up for display. What purpose does this serve? To fill time. That's really the only reason it's included. This could exist on its own without us building the museum, but, you know, gotta get those hours in somehow. Getting some of these stickers is easy. I can buy a nice chunk of them at the shop and throw them in the museum like so. And the same with the things. I just have to turn them all into stickers and plop them on display. So not only is this a colossal waste of time, there's also no checklist to see which stickers you've already added and which you haven't. So again, shoutouts to TheRyts for her spreadsheet. At least the game has the courtesy to light up the rooms that show you where to go, and it even highlights where each sticker needs to be placed. How thoughtful. Thank you so damn much. But every sticker isn't like this. In fact, some of them are enemy drops. We already saw how fun enemy drops were in Super Paper Mario, and this is kind of the same idea. There weren't that many enemy drop stickers to grab, but a couple of them, like the bone, were being very feisty. I took out like 10 dry bones before finally getting one of their stickers. And all the Mega Flash and big stickers kinda suck too, because they can only be found in certain locations. The worst one by far to get was the big shiny Infinity Jump, because I had to play 5-3 again. Now, this is not a hard level. It's actually pretty mind-numbing as you slowly sail down a river avoiding the fish chomp's attacks. However, since I've been playing for so long and was a bit fatigued, I could not stop dying here. I probably spent like, 30 minutes replaying this stage? I don't know what was going on with me, but I could not avoid the fish's attacks for the life of me. Once I did get the big shiny Infinity Jump, I was so relieved that I got to waste one of the best stickers in the game for the museum. Also, you gotta love how the flashy slap hammer is hiding behind this pillar while sinking into the quicksand. Really cool spot, Nintendo. And you know what's mind-boggling about all of this? There's a shady toad that has all the things so you don't have to backtrack for them. Where's the shady toad for the stickers? Dude, I would gladly pay money to rebuy these stupid things. At that point, why even bother with the shady toad if you have to replay half the levels anyway? As you can tell, I'm not exactly in a chirpy mood right now, so I needed to change things up and grind for coins instead. There were only a few stickers left, but I had to do something else or I was going to explode. Lucky for us, there's a pretty easy strategy to grind coins. First, I gotta buy a ton of fire flowers. Then I went over to 312 and headed to this spot with the Cheep Cheeps. We want to go here in particular because we'll always fight 5 Cheep Cheeps. You'll use a fire flower on them and get a guaranteed excellent attack and a perfect bonus. And once they're gone, you simply collect the coins afterwards and just do that over and over and over again. This is how we're going to get all the coins, the excellent attacks, and the perfect bonuses. While this is one of the most brain-melting tasks I've ever done, you can see why we tried skipping battles. This is way faster than fighting tough enemies that take multiple turns. Here, we only have to use 1 sticker per battle. Once we're out of fire flowers, we'll go back to 1-5, pick up a couple stickers on the way, sell everything, and repeat the entire process. Do you want to take a guess at how long I spent doing this? 4 hours! Yes, this took 4 hours to get all the flags I needed. I think I'd actually have more fun watching paint dry, or sitting in a timeout corner. Holy mother of God! This was the longest 4 hours of my life! The monotony was actually unreal. The only interesting part of this coin grind was the beginning, because I still had to get a lot of bingos. I think I only had like 25 or something out of the 50 I needed, so I spent a good amount of time and money trying to get that. Going for the jackpot wasn't that hard to do because you can spend coins to automatically match up too, but I still had to try. I would miss the bingo sometimes and wasted a bunch of cash, but it was the best way to get the flag that I still needed. So after that insane coin grind, I still had to finish the last few stickers. And this was when I learned something really dumb about the way hidden blocks work. There's parts in this game where you can add a sticker to a hidden block, and hitting that will give you a new sticker, usually better than what you had. The last 3 stickers I needed were Flashy Hurl Hammer, Flash Spike Helmet, and Flashy Shell. Now, I know you can get these stickers from the secret doors, but for some reason I never got them or used them without meaning to ages ago. So my only option now was to get these stickers through hidden blocks. So you might think, well, okay, to get a Flashy Hurl Hammer, just plop on a shiny Hurl Hammer on the block and you'll get the upgrade, right? Right? Yeah, it's not that simple. Just not that simple. What I actually had to do was go to this GameFAQs message board from 12 years ago and read this post about the odds of what can come out of a hidden block. So as an example, if you apply a jump sticker to a hidden block, there's 4 outcomes. You could get a shiny jump, 2 hammers and a shiny jump, an iron jump, or a hammer. So that means it's complete luck if you get the upgrade. For the shiny hurl hammer, I could get a flashy hurl hammer, a line jump, shiny line jump, and flashy hurl hammer, a shiny power block, or a shiny line zipline jump. Somehow, I actually managed to get a flashy hurl hammer on the first attempt. Next was flashy spike helmet, and I did not get the drop I wanted because it's only a 25% chance. Whether I use the shiny spike helmet, shiny frog suit, shiny tail, shiny super boot, or the super boot, each of those items gave me a 25% chance of getting the flashy spike helmet. I did eventually get it as well as the flashy shell, but my god, what a process to get all these stickers. This did not need to be this complicated and obtrusive. Well, at least we're done. Wait, hold on. 94 out of 96 stickers? I'm missing the bone and snowball? What? I'm not even gonna get upset. Whatever, I got the stupid stickers again, and now I'm done. I did all the stupid freaking stickers. And oh howdy boy, I can finally use the sound gallery without being able to choose music. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, cool. Now I can also spend 1 coin to look at the enemy gallery. So f***ing worth it. Would you look at that? I have all 8 flags. It's not exactly my proudest achievement, but I guess I can say that I did it now. All that was left to do was fight Kamek and Bowser. Kamek is a little annoying because you have to hit the jackpot, but otherwise isn't that bad. Bowser is also not that hard either. You just need to be aware of all the thing stickers you'll need to beat him. And just like that, we actually 100% Paper Mario Sticker Star. Well, that was one hell of an experience. It took me 19 hours and 34 minutes to complete. Wait, hold on. 19 and a half hours? Oh my god, that is way faster than I thought it would be. Did this crappy game just save the entire challenge? Well, here we go again. To 100% this, I need to collect 10,000 coins, buy 200 coins from the Port Prisma card shop, perform 200 excellent attacks, get all the cutouts, repaint all the colorless spots, and beat all 8 Rochambeau temples. So in other words, I need to fill out all 6 super flags. The last time I played Color Splash, I wasn't a big fan of it. It's obviously a lot better than Sticker Star, but it's crazy that they went with the sticker system again. Oh, excuse me, cards. Yeah, totally different. That's my bad. But you know what? This game outside of the combat is honestly not too bad. Exploring the overworld is a lot more fun this time because you have to go through and fill in all the colorless spots with your hammer. Since the game is so colorful and vibrant, it's really satisfying trying to find all the spots and make everything look perfect. And the presentation is a lot better too. This is a really pretty game, and the story is also much better and funnier. Sure, there's a lot of toads again, but at least playing is more pleasant this time around. The objectives are very similar to Sticker Star in terms of what needs to be 100% completed, outside of the Rochambeau temples, but I'm not ready to talk about those yet. Once again, there was no way to speed through the text, but I'm not even surprised. Nintendo game, no options bad. I'm just glad to be out of Sticker Star. We've moved on to bigger and better territory. Like these Shy Guys sucking the life out of the toads in a interesting position. Take that as you will. I really don't have much else to say about the combat, aside from the fact that it's slightly worse than Sticker Star because you sometimes have to fill cards with paint and the whole process is way longer than it needs to be. Although strangely, the timing to get excellent attacks is really late this time, compared to being super early in Sticker Star. I'm not sure why the timing was adjusted so much, but I kind of prefer the late timing more, just because it feels more natural to actually hitting the enemies. Instead of paperizing stickers, you have to do these cutouts on the gamepad. I guess that's more interesting? Sure, it's more interesting because you have to use the second screen, even though you could literally do all this on just one screen. As I was going through and getting the paint stars after each chapter, I would also start working on the Rochambeau temples. At first, it seemed like a nice change of pace. You simply have to win a few games of rock, paper, scissors to get a bunch of coins. You can get hints from some of the enemies from the toads, as a lot of them have patterns for what cards they're gonna pick. However, none of that matters because of the rock, paper wizard. This guy picks a random card every time, and there's nothing you can do except hope that luck is in your favor. I wouldn't really care about this, except for the fact that I have to complete all 8 of the Rochambeau temples, and each one gets harder and harder to do. Why is it a 100% requirement for me to complete something that has so much randomness? And if you lose, you gotta pay up to go back in, which is ridiculous. As much as I hate the Rochambeau temples, they are admittedly a really good source for getting money. Even if you don't win every battle, you'll still get some cash for just playing a round or two, so at least that's in the cards. But man, these temples were really annoying. Sometimes they would take up to 30 to 40 minutes to beat once. I mean, hell, the hints that the toads give you about the enemy patterns are literally false sometimes. As an example, Spike on Rochambeau Temple 4 is supposed to always pick rock or scissors. But guess what? If you lose a couple times in a row, he might just pick paper because he feels like it. Like, what the hell? Why would the game give me this hint if it's just a bunch of lies and deceit? I eventually just had to accept that even with the hints, the temples were just going to be luck-based and I could only hope to beat them quickly. Something else I find really bizarre about Color Splash is that it has the same problem that early 3D Mario games had. In Mario 64 or Sunshine, you'd get booted out of a level after getting 1 star or shine, and this was kind of annoying because you'd have to replay big chunks of the level over. Somehow, Color Splash exhibits this exact same problem in multiple levels. A lot of times, you'll grab a paint star and then play the level again and take a slightly different route at the end with no other changes. Now, of course, there's a bit of a difference seeing as you may miss colorless spots or cutout spots the first time, so replaying a level to find those does make a bit more sense. But yeah, Color Splash is okay, but there's nothing here that's dramatically different to what we've already talked about. I got a little peeved at the quiz level for not having the right cards the first time, and the ship sailing thing, that was kind of obnoxious, but otherwise, we were good. I was just sitting in silence and ensuring that I was hitting all the colorless spots and got all the cutouts along the way. The bosses are also all the Koopalings, so, really creative and exciting. Cool. I do really wish the pacing was a bit faster though, as I was starting to doze off again halfway through. Part of it is just, I've been playing a lot of RPGs at once, but part of it is also that the game has so much loading and slow text boxes to sift through. Since I'm not really reading or engaging with the story, the text boxes just feels like extra loading times to me, which makes it even more dull. At least we get to fight a steak though. Yeah, a literal, realistic looking steak. You can see where Origami King got its great boss ideas from. To beat the steak, you have to tenderize it with your hammer just right and also grill it and add spices. I have to admit, that's pretty damn hilarious. It's just so stupid that I can't help but chuckle that this is a real boss in a Paper Mario game. Although it did give me some issues. If you mess up, you have to pay an absurd amount of coins to try the boss again. And also, replica lemons do not work for some reason. It has to be a real lemon or it won't taste right. You know what, next time I'm just gonna add poison to the steak, you stupid VIP. Enjoy that. I do have to give a shout out to the Mario Bros. 3 level, because it's by far one of the most interesting ones in the game. You can literally tilt the stage and find new paths like it's Super Paper Mario. That's such a cool throwback. I enjoyed the Bowser fight too. It's somewhat challenging and is a really unique idea with Bowser being possessed by evil black paint. Although I did not have enough cards to beat him the first time, so I did a couple more of the crappy Rochambeau temples, bought some more cards, and went back in. I was successful on the second attempt and we were done with the main game. All I had left to do was a couple of colorless spots that I missed on the way, as well as cutouts, and we finally have all 6 super flags, meaning we're 100% done. Color Splash took me a total of 24 hours and 7 minutes to complete, and I'm so glad it's over, because now we can move on to the final game.
Mom. Woohoo!
This is it, the final straw. To 100% this, I need to collect all 120 collectible treasures, 15 trophies, 14 max HP hearts, find all 368 question mark blocks, 404 hidden toads, and fill all 346 not bottomless holes. I'm aware that you can also get extra gold banners on your save file for not dying and not using accessories, but yeah, I'm using accessories, but you know what? I'll attempt not die, although it's not required to get 100%. And if you're wondering, I currently have about 34 hours left to 100% each game, which doesn't seem like a lot of wiggle room, but I'm actually pretty damn excited to play Origami King, as I always thought this was a decent game. Well, besides the slow text, because once again, there's not a way to speed it up. But I really don't care, because I love the story in Origami King. Olivia is a fun little companion character, and this is a game where going for 100% is genuinely great. Trying to spot all the toads as an example will make you go, hey, I see you, I see you. Since origami is a prominent theme in Origami King, go figure, the toads will often be disguised as a butterfly, or a grasshopper, or a beetle, or many different things. They're in all sorts of unique shapes and sizes, and it's just satisfying trying to hunt them all down. The holes are pretty much the same mechanic as the colorless paint spots from Color Splash, so I don't really have much to add beyond that. The sound effects are crazy accurate to paper fluttering. I don't know how they made it sound so gratifying and crunchy. The best part is that this game actually has its own list to be able to keep track of what you've completed already. Every time you get 100% of something in an area, the game lets you know with a notification, and it just feels nice. You've also got the 1,000-fold arms that are used in boss battles in the overworld, and I thought this was a fine enough mechanic. I don't know what was with Nintendo's obsession with stretchy arms in the Switch 1 era, but I guess I'll take it. As for the ring battle combat, I mean, it's okay. I used to be a lot more negative about it, but honestly, I don't mind it that much. Your main hammer and jump attacks can never go away, but you can find more powerful items that are either a one-time use or take a long time to break. I'm just glad they don't disappear instantly like they did in Color Splash and Sticker Star. This is a better balance to the idea. Although I would have preferred having regular RPG combat with actual partners, I'm okay with this combat because the rest of the game is pretty enjoyable. It does get old after a while, but I'll take it over stickers and cards. What's always perplexed me is the paper macho enemies. There's a good variety of them that you fight in real time, and it's kind of like Super Paper Mario but in 3D. Did this game really need to have two different types of combat? Anyone else find that to be really bizarre? As you continue playing, you find out that a good handful of enemies were designed around this, so why not just pick one battle system over the other? I think Origami King would have easily been one of the best Paper Mario games if it only had paper macho enemies and bosses, or maybe just have the ring mechanic for bosses or something. Some of the writing in this game just cracks me up. Like, look at this sign. The dock. You're on it. Thank you, Nintendo. That one's actually pretty funny. Okay. Well, guess I'm not getting that fancy gold banner on the save file. But oh well, the bosses in this game come down to being Valumentals and your local Staples office supplies. That's right, get ready to take on the deadly colored pencils, the terrifying stapler, and even a pair of scissors! Yeah, these bosses are kind of stupid, but I also love it. They all have very unique attack patterns and really show off the best of what the ring battles can offer. Something that was really important was to make sure that I had a membership card before buying any weapons or items, as that would save me a lot of money. The easiest way to go about this is to simply buy the trophies at the shop, as it pretty much guarantees you to get the membership as well as its upgrades later down the line. They also count this card as an accessory, which in a way is a bit like badges from the older games, because later on you get other accessories that add time to the ring or increase your defense. So I guess that's kind of neat. The only real gripe I started to have with Origami King is with the actual confetti throws. You'll find all sorts of different sizes with the holes, and every time you fill a small one, you end up wasting a ton of your confetti. It would have been kind of cool if there was an option to switch between small and large throws, just to conserve confetti a bit better. They got the buttons right there on the controller, just use ZL for small throws and ZR for big throws. And while I'm talking about this, a basic run button would have been nice too. Again, you got a bunch of buttons on this controller, Nintendo. You are allowed to use more than 4 at once. Can Mario really not go faster than a light morning jog? I know I've barely talked about all the different chapters, but there's nothing to really complain about. It's just great fun all around. There's even a whole ass Wind Waker chapter where you sail around a sea, find islands, and hunt for treasure out in the ocean. Yeah, like I said, it's literally just Wind Waker, and it shockingly works really well for a game like this. We also get the coin step counter while we're here, which is actually a huge deal. Once you walk 10,000 steps with it enabled, you get a free 10,000 coins. That's freaking awesome, and really encourages you to explore to your heart's content. I also love how at the end of the game, you team up with Bowser Jr. and Kamek, and Bowser's army takes on the Origami army. It's strangely surreal to be working with Bowser to such a close degree, and the final boss is also pretty awesome. Bowser becomes a huge origami sumo wrestler, and you combine all the powers of the Valumental to take down Ollie. It's a great story, but my work was far from over. I have not talked about the 15 trophies that I still have to do, because there's actually a lot to tackle. Luckily, I had around 14 hours left on the clock, so I had a good amount of time to complete all the side content. First up, I had to pay 35,000 coins for one collectible. I get it's the Peach one, but goddamn that's spendy. That's how much we're paying for like, what, a Switch 3, right? Anyway, it's time for some boss refights. While I like that you can do this, I found it to be pretty dull. I already knew all the strategies, and I could just feel the game kind of dragging its way along. The reason we even need to do this is to get a collectible once you beat each boss once. When that was done, I headed over to the museum and filled out the entire art gallery. This took forever, but it was also really really satisfying doing it all at once since I already acquired all the hidden toads. Next, I had to beat every level in the ringer. This was just solving puzzles, which I quickly realized I wasn't that good at. By the end of the Origami King, I had so many coins that I was using them for most of the battles, so I was not very good at the complex ones. Beating the 30 levels in the ringer wasn't that bad, but speed rings was another story. I just solved 16 puzzles in 100 seconds, and this was honestly a bit of a struggle. I just wasn't able to figure it out fast enough, and I was getting so frustrated that I ended up using this ring puzzle guide that I found online to help solve them faster. I also tried to replay the ringer levels a few times since the puzzles were the same, but my brain was just not grasping this very well. Definitely a skill issue for sure, but I don't really care. It's just not that fun trying to speedrun these harder puzzles. Doing stuff like this without a time limit is a lot more enjoyable if you ask me. After about an hour, I finally beat the speed rings and can move on to the next trophy. I needed to catch a legendary Cheep Cheep and Blooper this time, and this can only be done at Full Moon Island. This honestly wasn't that bad. It only took about 10 minutes for the big Cheep Cheep to show up. I somehow missed my throw the first time, but thankfully he respawned a few minutes later and I got him. And same with the Blooper. It was just another 5 or so minutes of waiting for his shadow to show up. Following that was getting 100 points on Expert Mode in the Shuriken Dojo. We did this a bit earlier to get a collectible, but I didn't realize you also had to play Expert Mode for an achievement. This one also wasn't that bad, but it was a bit luck dependent considering that I needed those 8s to show up close to Mario at least a few times. But overall, it only took like 5 minutes to get the 100 points that I needed. Since I was already in Shogun Studios, I decided that it was time to begin the Eddy River Challenge. I was warned that this river section was the hardest part in the game, and that's because you have to get every coin without missing any. So I was expecting to take like an hour or two trying to do this. But guess what? I got all the coins on my 3rd try. Yes, it only took me like 10 minutes to do this. When I was looking up strategies online, I noticed that you could use your hammer to slow down your boat. While it did damage the boat, it didn't really matter as it would take a handful of swings for us to drown. So whenever I needed to realign myself, I just swung the hammer and adjusted. Shockingly, this worked in the whirlpool section. The boat just came to a stop. That was the hardest part for me to learn. Even the coins when flying down the river was easy. You just push A when you collect the big 100 coin. I'm actually not sure how I did this so easily. Maybe all those coin videos meant something, but I'll definitely take it. Next up, it was time to get a perfect score and Shy Guys finished last. I'll be honest, this was the only trophy that I was truly dreading as I did pretty poorly on this on my first run through. So getting a perfect score sounded a bit daunting, but thankfully I learned better ways to beat these minigames. Ring Scramble was pretty intimidating at first, until looking at some solutions online. It's really not that much of a puzzle. I only needed to rotate a few pieces to get them lined up. Race and Place has a pretty easy strat too. Just physically write down the names of the characters and then jot down the numbers at the end and it makes it impossible to lose. Ninja Skills wasn't that hard either besides level 3, until I realized that I shouldn't be trying to keep track of the 4 ninjas, but instead the 2 other enemies. For Bath Math, there was a pretty easy strat with my keyboard. When a Goomba went in the hot spring, I pushed A. When it left, I pushed S. When it was all said and done, I took the A buttons and subtracted them with the S's, and I got the answer that way. Now, look, I'm well aware that these minigames really aren't that hard for the average person. It only feels harder to me since I'm under the pressure of a timer. I didn't want to choke up and waste a bunch of time. So after learning all these strategies, I managed to get the perfect score and didn't have that much left to do. Somehow, I haven't earned the Battle King trophy yet, which is finishing 200 battles. I've been fighting enemies for over 20 hours. How have I not gotten this trophy yet? I figured the fastest way to finish this was to head over to Picnic Road and take on the Goombas. After about an hour or so, I got the notification and finally got that trophy. Next up, it was time to get 300,000 coins. I already knew I had a lot of these, but I guess I hadn't accumulated that much yet, so I headed over to Scuffle Island and did the Paper Macho battles. For whatever reason, the game never tells you how many coins you've already earned, so I had to keep doing these until I got notified. We get 11,160 coins each time, so it's a pretty solid strategy. Shockingly, I only had to do these fights twice before getting the trophy, so I guess I've earned a lot more coins than I thought. All that was left now was getting the Origami Aficionado and Sound Disc Collector trophies. This was pretty simple. There were a couple of origami enemies that I just hadn't fought yet and had to do those real quick. The sneakiest one is ironically the Shoe Goomba. There's a part in the desert where when you first get the rideable shoe, you're encouraged to trample over all the enemies in your path without fighting them, but if you actually stop and fight them, then you'll find the Shoe Goomba. Ah, it's a very clever and ironic hiding spot. As for the Sound Disc Collector trophy, well, there was one tiny hole that I missed on the the Eddy River, and that unlocked everything. And just like that, we are done! We beat Paper Mario the Origami King in 28 hours and 33 minutes, and successfully 100% every Paper Mario game in less than a week. We had about 6 hours and 20-ish minutes of time left to go. I can't believe this was actually possible. I gotta say, it would have been impossible to do if I didn't change the timer rule. So I'm glad that I did, and it just feels nice to have 100% these games after all this time. So with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.